Welcome to the Tim Booker channel, where wisdom is worth spreading. Wishing you a delightful listening experience. Today, I want to introduce one of the most fascinating parenting books I've read this year, titled The Gardener and the Carpenter. The core message of this book is that being a parent is not a job, not like a carpenter building a table. It's not about techniques. Being a parent is being a gardener, fundamentally rooted in love. The purpose of this love is to provide a safe, warm, and nurturing environment for children to grow into their unique selves. The author of this book, Alison Gopnik, is a developmental psychologist at the University of California, Berkeley, and one of the foremost scholars in this field worldwide. She's not only an experimental psychologist but also a philosopher. Her lifelong research revolves around children, their growth, and their cognitive development. She raised 3 successful sons and became a grandmother with 3 grandchildren under 5. Her first grandchild, often mentioned in her book, is named Oki. Typical parenting books tend to narrow your perspective, making it seem like the only important thing in the world is how to scientifically feed, change diapers, and put children to sleep. However, this book broadens your horizons as you read. You'll discover that, from the perspective of human evolution, the relationship between parents and children is one of the most special and significant in human existence. Many of our uniquely human abilities, such as learning, inventing, innovating, preserving culture, and morality, are deeply rooted in this parent-child relationship. The subtitle of this book is, What the New Science of Child Development Tells Us About the Relationship Between Parents and Children. In essence, the book discusses science but presents 2 contrasting images throughout. One image represents scientific findings about parent-child relationships, drawing from 2 specific scientific fields, evolutionary biology and developmental psychology. The other image represents mainstream culture, including books, television, and newspapers, depicting parent-child relationships. These 2 images are entirely different. Let's start by looking at how mainstream culture portrays parent-child relationships. It can be summed up with one word in English: parenting. Parent is a noun, meaning a mother or father. However, when you add ing to parent, it becomes a verb, which is what we call parenting. The term parenting emerged in the 1950s but gained popularity in the 1960s. The author explains that in the 1960s, a series of social changes in the United States, following World War II, led to the disintegration of extended families, giving rise to the nuclear family. This change meant that people were having children at older ages and without much prior experience in child rearing. In the past, within extended families, individuals could draw upon family experience to learn how to care for a child. But by the 1960s, new parents lacked this experience. So, naturally, they turned to books and classes to acquire the knowledge and expertise needed to care for their children. Parenting is a classic carpentry mindset. A carpenter creates something based on their ideas, taste, skills, and blueprints, such as a table, chair, or bookshelf. Similarly, parenting involves taking the raw material, your child, and with enough effort, skill, and professionalism, shaping them into an intelligent, successful, and happy adult. Hence, the mainstream cultural image of parent-child relationships is akin to a carpenter and a table. However, this image is associated with a multi-billion-dollar industry. Having discussed how parent-child relationships are portrayed in mainstream culture, let's now delve into how science, particularly from the perspectives of biology and psychology, views these relationships. Firstly, all those parenting techniques that middle-class parents agonize over, such as co-sleeping or independent sleeping, homework durations, and playtimes, have no scientific evidence showing that these details significantly impact a child's long-term development. Does this mean that parenting doesn't matter? Not at all. There is ample scientific evidence that having caring and nurturing parents has a profound impact on a child's life. In the United States, 20% of impoverished children lack adequate care, prompting government social welfare policies to ensure these children receive better care. So, it's not that parents don't matter, it's that the specific parenting techniques that middle-class parents fret over don't matter. Doesn't this seem surprising? Does it mean that reading all those parenting books was in vain, or that enrolling children in early education classes was pointless? To address this puzzlement, the author introduces the metaphor of a gardener. If you want to create a small garden in your backyard, you may find yourself toiling all day, sweating profusely, but the flowers and plants don't grow as you initially envisioned. It's like the Chinese saying, with the heart to plant, the flowers don't bloom, without the heart to plant, the willows become lush. However, there's a profound reason behind this saying. A true gardener doesn't aim to grow the biggest tomatoes or the most beautiful orchids. Instead, they create an ecosystem where various plants can thrive. As long as you ensure fertile soil and a safe environment, the flowers and plants will adapt in unpredictable ways to changes in their surroundings. Regarding adaptability, a small garden is far more flexible than a large tomato greenhouse or an orchid greenhouse. From an evolutionary biology perspective, this is the essence of human childhood, creating and safeguarding such an ecosystem. Within this ecosystem, various novel, unusual, interesting, and unpredictable changes can occur, and individuals can freely explore ways to adapt to them. As they grow up, each generation can do things the previous generation couldn't anticipate. This is the author's main argument in the book. So, being a parent is not a job, not like a carpenter making tables, it's not about techniques. Being a parent is like being a gardener, fundamentally rooted in love. This love has no specific goals or blueprints, but it does have a purpose. The purpose is not to change the children we love but to provide them with a safe, warm, and nurturing environment, a garden if you will. In this garden, life unfolds layer by layer, and ultimately, individuals find their unique path. They shape their destinies and become uniquely themselves. I've summarized the main conclusions of this book, which emphasize that being a parent is about being a gardener rather than a carpenter. Now, let's explore how the author arrives at this conclusion in the specific interpretation of the book. One of the best ways to understand something is to trace its origins. To gain a deep understanding of the relationship between children and parents, it's crucial to understand how this relationship evolved. So, the first part we'll discuss is the evolution of childhood. Ever since modern humans existed, human mothers, fathers, and others have provided special care to children. What makes human parental care special compared to other animals? Next, we'll delve into the evolution of love. The evolution of childhood and love grants children a unique learning ability. Lastly, we'll explore how children learn. Childhood, love, and learning, these are the central themes of this book. Is there anything specific you'd like to know more about in the book? Let's begin by discussing the first part, the evolution of childhood. Let me ask a question first. Why do children exist in this world? You might say it's due to our human instinct for reproduction. But from an evolutionary perspective, childhood is a phase entirely dependent on others. Babies are essentially helpless, in fact, worse than useless, because adults have to invest a great deal of time and effort in caring for them just to keep them alive. Now, if it's so troublesome, why do humans have this extended period of immaturity? After all these years of evolution, why couldn't this stage be shortened? Look at many animals, like fish, whose infancy is very brief, and they can mature with little or no parental care. Even in the primate world, take chimpanzees, for example, they can walk at 3 or 4 months, forage by themselves at 7, reach sexual maturity at 8 or 9, and reproduce at 10 or 11. In comparison, humans take over a year to start walking. In hunter-gatherer societies, they're not independent until around 15, and they don't start having children until after 18. From an evolutionary perspective, this phenomenon is quite puzzling. In recent decades, evolutionary biology has made an intriguing discovery. It turns out that species with longer immature periods tend to have larger brains and become smarter and more adaptable as adults. This link is quite evident in the animal kingdom, including some ancient creatures like marsupials, specifically the short-tailed opossum. Short-tailed possums on an island off Western Australia, for instance, are similar in weight to their Virginia opossum relatives. However, compared to the short-tailed possums, Virginia possums spend much more time in their mother's pouch, and their parents invest more time and energy, resulting in larger brains. Birds provide another classic example. Ornithologists have long divided birds into precocial and altricial, based on how early they leave the nest. Precocial birds like chickens, geese, and turkeys mature very early, typically within a month or 2. They excel at a few things, like catching food, but beyond that, they're quite limited in their learning abilities. On the other hand, altricial birds like crows and parrots are late bloomers. Some are even smarter than chimpanzees. Consider the New Caledonian crow on the South Pacific island of New Caledonia. These crows take 2 years to mature, which is quite a long time considering their lifespan. Yet, they're exceptionally intelligent, not only using tools but also crafting and designing them. There was once a viral video of a New Caledonian crow teaching its chick how to use a palm leaf as a tool to extract insects from a bottle. The chick joyfully mimicked its parent while the parent looked on, eventually providing insects it had dug up itself. Having a large brain consumes a significant amount of energy, but possessing a powerful brain contributes to the survival of the species. It means having the luxury of developing a larger brain, which necessitates an extended childhood to invest in a more significant brain. This process repeats, leading to offspring with even larger brains. Humans are at the end of this spectrum. In the animal kingdom, we have the longest period of immaturity, the largest brain capacity relative to body size, and the greatest capacity for learning. Human adults also invest the most time and effort in caring for their children. In the first few years of human life, the brain is incredibly active, consuming a significant portion of an adult's calories. Sometimes, even when you're sitting idle, about 20% of your calories go straight to the brain. Before the age of 4, children direct a remarkable 66% of their calories to their brains, more than any other time. In fact, to compensate for the tremendous energy consumption of their brains during this period, children have to slow down their physical development. Our species is destined to confront the highest degree of variability and unpredictability in our environment. Our extended childhood is a core adaptation strategy. Our massive brains and long childhoods are designed to provide children with a protective space where they can continuously experiment with new ideas and behaviors. Each generation creates a slightly different world, surpassing the previous one. Of course, this is the ideal scenario, but it can also go worse. However, the purpose of evolution is to create differences, as differences offer opportunities for survival and prosperity. So, this is why we have children in childhood, to enable them to afford such a big brain, one that thrives in an unpredictable environment. A brain that excels at learning change rather than planning action. Childhood is messy, and that messiness is precisely childhood's contribution to evolution. So, returning to the theme of the gardener and the carpenter mentioned at the beginning, as parents, if you approach raising a child with a carpenter's mindset and successfully execute the carpenter's blueprint, creating a multitude of identically smart, successful, and happy children, then you've entirely missed the point of childhood. Now, let's move on to the second part, the evolution of love. Gopnik argues that being a parent is not a job, it's love. So, what kind of love is this, beyond saying, I love my child? In this section, the author will explain that human love for children is unique, shaped by a distinct evolutionary history, and it influences many other human emotions and relationships. These include love between spouses, between generations, among parents, among friends, between teachers and students, and within communities. Compared to other animals, there are two remarkable aspects of how human parents care for their children. First, it's the exceptionally long duration, as discussed in the first part. Second, there is a multitude of individuals involved. Apart from mothers, there are fathers, grandparents, neighbors, and even strangers. It might seem natural, but the affection shown by parents, grandparents, strangers, and even pet dogs towards human infants is a highly unique phenomenon. Firstly, fathers actively participating in childcare is uncommon in the animal kingdom. In fact, stable pair bonding itself is rare among animals. New DNA evidence reveals that almost all animals have multiple sexual partners, and very few form monogamous relationships. Some birds do, but among primates, it's only the bonobos and humans. What does pair bonding mean? It's not just having sex, it involves living together and caring for offspring. This relationship may not necessarily last a lifetime, but it typically extends through 1 or 2 mating seasons. The focus here is not having 1 or 2 mates but rather the collaboration itself. How did this human pair bonding develop? From a male perspective, it's evolutionarily beneficial to be aggressive, sleep around, and then leave, as it enhances gene spreading. However, from a female perspective, choosing less aggressive males who invest more in their offspring is more advantageous, especially when children require more care. So, seemingly gentle yet caring males gained an evolutionary advantage. Hence, there's a significant correlation between human pair bonding and investment. This is closely related to the extended childhood of humans, which demands more care. Even from an instinctual standpoint, romantic love and parental love seem to share a profound connection. Both involve something akin to an illusion. The saying, "love is blind," applies to both, as both are driven by oxytocin. Oxytocin and related chemicals in the brain are responsible for producing feelings of love, attachment, and warmth. In birds, they develop attachment to the first moving object they see after birth, a simple emotional strategy. For humans, it's more complex. First sights and touches aren't enough. Experience in long-term care is required. Biologists say that fathers are occasional caregivers. They can be fully involved or completely neglectful depending on circumstances. The key difference lies in the experience of caregiving itself, meaning paternal love as an intimate relationship develops through caring for a child. Research indicates that fathers lower their testosterone levels while caring for infants, reducing aggression and anger. So, if fathers invest in childcare, some examples can be found in the natural world, but grandparents, especially grandmothers, engaging in childcare is exceptionally rare. In fact, the existence of grandparents, from an evolutionary perspective, is unusual. Most species don't have grandparents, they die off once they reach reproductive age. One explanation for the involvement of human grandmothers in caring for grandchildren is that, when a child's needs reach a certain point, it's more evolutionarily advantageous to help care for one's own genetic descendants than to have more children of one's own. This can also explain the phenomenon of menopause in human females. Evolutionary biology has the famous grandmother effect, where females who go through menopause live longer and help their daughters and grandchildren, increasing the chances of more grandchildren being born. In summary, in human society, a child's prolonged immaturity is generously supported by mothers, fathers, grandparents, and even unrelated strangers. Children represent a pure example of a specific long-term commitment. The key to this relationship lies in the acts of care and affection themselves. It is this commitment that ensures a child's extended, protected period of immaturity. Human love for children extends to other children, community members, friends, mentors, and even cities. So, we return to the theme of the gardener and the carpenter. If our goal is to nurture a specific type of adult, then we could simply select one child with the potential and raise them. However, in reality, human love for children surpasses practical utility. We don't care for a child because we love them, it's quite the opposite. We love a child because we've been caring for them all along. Next, let's discuss the third part, how children learn. This section mainly presents the results of the author's research conducted in his own laboratory, observing how children learn through experience. Gopnik believes that, when it comes to understanding the real world, including human aspects, children's thinking is similar to that of scientists. They observe, hypothesize, reason, experiment, and seek evidence to understand the causal relationships in the world while maintaining an open-minded approach to the possibilities. Based on his research, children learn early on to empathize with their caregivers and develop internal operational models based on their responses. For example, secure infants assume that their caregivers will quickly comfort them and restore their well-being. Avoidant infants believe that expressing distress will lead to more unhappiness, while anxious infants are uncertain about whether soothing will work. These patterns are remarkably similar to cognitive theories about the external world, except that these are theories about love. For infants, there is nothing more critical to learn because throughout childhood, their survival depends entirely on caregivers. Without caregivers, there is no childhood. The enthusiasm of children for pretend play is a somewhat perplexing phenomenon. 3-year-old children spend more time in the world of imagination than in the real world, whether playing with blocks, pressing buttons on a toy, playing house, pretending to be princesses, princes, or mermaids. Play itself lacks a clear focus, purpose, or function. It's not a prediction of future survival skills, but these seemingly pointless behaviors hold a unique, quintessentially human value. The author believes this is because children are using their understanding of the world, their scientific theories, to imagine how the world can be different. When conceiving of a fictional world, their approach is similar to that of novelists or playwrights. In essence, novelists and playwrights retain the childhood hobby of play. The author points out that if you look around you, every item in a room, be it a cup, a chair, or a computer, was once merely an object in an imagined world. Even people were once products of a little girl's imagination. As a scientist, a philosopher, an atheist, a feminist, everything the author has become, originated from the imagination of a little girl. Now, these are tangible and profoundly real things. This transformation of imagination into reality is what the human mind excels at. He argues that discovering the truth of the world, which is theory, and creating new worlds, which is imagination, together constitute the most crucial evolutionary advantage of humanity. These two abilities are two sides of the same coin. Theory tells us what is true and what is possible, as well as how to reach that possibility. When children learn and imagine, they are using existing knowledge to create new possibilities. From this perspective, children are the research and development department of the human species, the theorists and innovators who come up with forward-thinking ideas. Adults, on the other hand, are the manufacturing and marketing departments. Children generate countless new ideas, most of which are useless, and adults are responsible for implementing a few good ideas. When we were children, we were dedicated to learning everything about the world and imagining all the different possibilities it could hold. As we grow into adults, we apply what we've learned and imagined. Childhood, a time protected by parental love, dedicated to learning, play, and imagination, is deeply meaningful because it frees humanity from the constraints of evolution and gives us the capacity for continuous creativity and invention. So, the essence of parental love has never been a job, it's a relationship, a unique kind of love relationship. The author believes that our love for children, and their love for us, is unconditional, intimate, profound, and filled with emotional intuition. As parents, our greatest reward is not our children's achievements or trophies, not even their graduation ceremonies or weddings. It's the joy of being with that child minute by minute and the joy that child experiences when they're with you, minute by minute. Alright, these are the key points from a scientific perspective, including the evolution of childhood, the evolution of love, and how children learn. These three aspects explain the theory of the gardener and the carpenter. Let's recap the main points. Firstly, the author proposes that being a parent is not about being a carpenter but rather a gardener, creating an ecosystem for childhood to flourish. Why? The author first explains the reason for the existence of human childhood as a core adaptation strategy. Our survival environment necessitated a well-developed brain capable of learning and adapting to change. The extended childhood provides a protective timeframe for humans to fully develop this vast brain, allowing for the continual generation of new ideas and behaviors, surpassing the previous generation. Secondly, the author explains the behaviors of human love. Human love for children is unique and shaped by evolutionary history. A specific long-term commitment ensures a protected, extended period of immaturity for children. Human love for children extends to other children, community members, friends, mentors, and even cities. Lastly, when children learn, they apply both scientific and imaginative thinking. When understanding the real world, children's thinking is similar to that of scientists, observing, hypothesizing, reasoning, experimenting, and seeking evidence. They maintain an open-minded attitude towards the possibilities of the world. Simultaneously, they use their understanding of the world, their scientific theories, to imagine how the world can be different. When imagining a fictional world, their approach is akin to that of novelists or playwrights. Childhood, protected by parental love, dedicated to learning, play, and imagination, frees humanity from evolutionary constraints, granting us the capacity for continuous creativity and invention. So, as parents, it's not about shaping a child according to your standards, it's more like the work of a gardener, creating an ecosystem. As long as you ensure fertile soil and a safe space, the flowers and plants will thrive in unforeseen ways, adapting to changes in the environment. From an evolutionary biology perspective, this is the entire purpose of human childhood, and the responsibility of parents is to create and protect this ecosystem. Congratulations on completing another book. Thank you for your support and attention. Please subscribe to the Tim Booker channel, like, and share with your family and friends. Wisdom is worth spreading, opening the door to a brighter future. Thank you, and goodbye.